Hey gang, it's RL back with. I had to do a response video to the one I posted earlier today of Michio Kaku on News Nation, saying, "Where's the beef when it comes to UFO evidence and all this stuff?" And I listened to it very closely, and I have to tell you, I'm a little concerned for the scientific community. We have lost the ability to think logically. And I want to set that straight because he said he's a very famous guy. And he's a very well liked and charismatic person, but the things he says don't always make sense. For instance, he starts off by saying that after studying UFO videos frame by frame, these craft defy conventional human physics. They defy human physics. The shapes of the craft do not conform to humans. Nothing human or conventional about them. The forces exerted by the speeds, the inertial force, exceed conventional human physics and the human endurance's capability to withstand it. The materials do not conform to physics or to anything conventionally human. Those things are all true. And then he says, but we need evidence. What are you talking about? You just stated evidence. You see what he did? He stated all the things that are evidence and then said, well, that isn't evidence, though. We need actual evidence. What does he mean by actual evidence? He says we need hard evidence. Bodies, craft, wreckage. We need something tangible. Is that right? You see, again, this is that impossible standard that science wants to demand. If hard evidence is produced, a physicist isn't necessary to confirm that. You look at that and go, yep, that's a UFO, yep, that's an alien craft, yep, that's a dead alien. We don't need a physicist for that. What we need are engineers for that, or biologists for that, or whatever. But a person, Joe the bus driver, can look at a downed alien craft and go, yeah, that ain't people. They could, a body falls through the ceiling on Joe the bus driver, yeah, that will be proof for him. But when you're a physicist, you're supposed to have a bit more nuance than that in your approach. And his approach is, give us something incontrovertible or there's no evidence. And this is stupid. By their same rationale, by that rationale, these physicists should also be out denying the existence of lightning, right? I mean, show me lightning. I need hard evidence. Well, you say, well, I've seen lightning. Oh, well, see, that's eyewitness testimony. Worthless. Well, I have pictures of it. I have videos. CGI. Okay, I've been struck by lightning. It's hearsay. Could have been anything. You see what I mean? You can't capture lightning in a bottle and show it to people. You have to go on the voluminous evidence that is presented to support lightning. You say, well, I can go outside my house and see lightning. I go outside of my house and see UFOs. Well, I've seen lightning. Yeah, I've seen UFOs. Well, I have pictures of lightning. I have pictures of UFOs. Well, I have videos of lightning. I have videos of UFOs. Well, I've been struck by lightning. Yeah, well, I've been fucking abducted. How far do you want to play this game before we go, oh, that evidence tracks? It tracks. And so these people, by the same level of impossibleness that they wish to place on this scientific subject, they don't apply to any other science, just this. And then you hear the dumbest of people say, well, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Again, completely unscientific. That isn't how science works. There are no extraordinary claims. There are just claims. And then there is no such thing as extraordinary evidence. There is simply evidence. And what we have is a multitude of the lower levels, admittedly, of evidence. However, there is so much of it that it cannot be ignored. And the people who are saying this about we need this or that have not gone through any of the other data at all themselves. They are lazy, they are uninspired, and they are hedging their bets because they know that their science is about to be proven ignorantly, stupidly, embarrassingly wrong. I mean, these scientists are so stupid. Sorry, but they are. They're so stupid that they literally can't comprehend how to prove that science is science from somewhere else. What? So he jokes that an abductee, oh, well, next time you're on a flying saucer, you should steal something from them to use as evidence. And he says there's no law prohibiting theft from an alien species. Yeah? Well, that cuts both ways, doesn't it? Because you just ethically sanctioned abductions by that rationale. If it's not illegal for us to steal from them, then it is not illegal for them to steal us from you. Don't open that door, Michio Kaku. Exopolitics are not your strong point. But I have to say, I'm starting to believe neither is science based on these statements. Because you know why they demand, like, the dumbest, hit you in the head with a brick evidence? Is because they have no standard, no rationale, and no scientific baseline as a threshold for evidence. What you tell scientists is, okay, well, we don't have the evidence we would like to have, but here's all the evidence we do have. Now, you can go through that evidence and you can make observations from which you can use inductive and then later deductive reasoning in order to arrive at a conclusion without having all the facts. Without having all of the data, you can still come to a conclusion. I'm sure when Michio Kaku was doing his calculus, he didn't get to the end of every equation and write a fucking question mark. That doesn't work. You have to figure out the variables based on the available data. And we have an enormous amount of available data. Eyewitness testimony, drawings, pictures, videos, satellites, drones. It goes on and on. We have more proof that there are aliens than there are people. So we have to start looking at that. When somebody says, hey, I'm a scientist, I studied these videos frame by frame, and these shapes don't appear to be human. The forces exerted are not anything human pilots could withstand. These materials are holding together after these extreme forces in a way that we can't make materials. Okay, so you're saying all the things that prove this is non-human, but you don't want to take that little leap where you just say to yourself, okay, if it doesn't look like anything human, and the materials can't be made by humans, and the forces exerted couldn't be survived by our pilots, and it also travels in a transmedium fashion, which we can't do, well then, logic dictates that if we cannot and are not doing it, then it must be done by someone else. If it is either human or it is non-human. You understand? It's either human or non-human. There is no in-between. But scientists don't know how to draw that line because it's new to them. But a line must be drawn. And I have, at the end of this video, I'm going to sum it up and I'm going to give you my personal scientific matrix for how to determine whether objects are of human or non-human origin. Okay? And believe me, you're not going to have to be a scientist to apply this principle. Anybody watching it can. Now, I started off, I was mad at Michio Kaku, boy. But then, they had to get out someone far more arrogant and infinitely stupider. Neil Degrass Tyson, in the same video, spewing his same tired shit that he constantly spews, that he thinks are some kind of intellectual fucking checkmate. And I'm about to inform him that the game hasn't even begun. He says, and I have heard this say this ad nauseum, and I got to fire back on this. He says, in science, eyewitness testimony is the lowest form of evidence. Okay. But you just admitted that it is evidence, though, right? Yeah, see? It is the lowest form of evidence, but it is a form of evidence. Now, eyewitness testimony has kind of, unless we're talking about abductions, not really applicable that much anymore, because while we do have eyewitnesses and people will draw things that they saw or weren't able to capture on film, I know I've done that. I've also captured quite a bit on film, and so have thousands of people across the planet. Has he analyzed any of these? No. Because is this eyewitness testimony? No, it's camera witness testimony, it's video witness testimony, and when you have eyewitness testimony along with other evidence, intangible though it may be, it now increases in value exponentially, according to the multitude of factors that accompany it. But he also says something else very interesting. He says, however, eyewitness testimony is the lowest form of evidence in science. However, in a court of law, it is considered to be quite high. Well, that's very interesting, Mr. Tyson, because when I'm reporting my abductions, I'm reporting a crime. And my first-hand eyewitness statement as a victim is the best evidence you can get and should be treated with that same value. Because, okay, fine, I said I saw a weird shape in the sky. It could be anything. I met one of these fucking people face to face. It's an entirely different conversation. We're not going from a blurry light in the sky that, oh, that could be a balloon, yeah, who knows, to, hey, one of these things was this close to me and touched me. I saw one of these things lean over me. They were doing stuff to me. I saw them. They spoke to me. We interacted. And I was abducted by them. Now, anybody who was taking a police report would be like, well, can you describe your abductors? And they would put out an APB or, an alert, whatever, wanted, and it would be a description of that person. They wouldn't wait for secondhand other evidence to come in before they went with what the eyewitness is telling them. They're going to take your fucking word for it like you should be taking mine and other people's who's had these experiences. So while you say that eyewitness testimony is the lowest form of evidence in science, okay, but you make up for it being the lowest form of science when you have an enormous, voluminous amount of this. Because now you can take this low form of evidence and you can start cross-referencing and matching, and you can actually come to a composite based on this eyewitness testimony. You could come to a composite view based on doing your due diligence, which we know Neil Degrass Tyson doesn't do. When was your last scientific paper, Neil deGrasse Tyson? When was it? 2008? Yeah. There are a lot of scientists who haven't put out a science paper since 2008. They've been dead since 2007. Because any scientist in the academic community worth their salt publishes papers quite often. And you're a TV academic. You're not a classroom academic. Obviously, by the ignorance of these statements. He says, you know, all these things about what is evidence and what is not evidence, but he hasn't looked at any of it. Neil Degrass Tyson has not looked at any evidence regarding UFOs. And then he makes these statements about what is and is not evidence, when he hasn't even looked at the evidence that exists. And these are people, and my point is, these are people who are not qualified to be effective scientists in this pursuit. Fine, you want to go teach people about the periodic elements or give your opinion on Pluto, fine. But you better stay out of my kitchen, folks, when it comes to talking about UFOs. You are out of your league, out of your depth, and have no knowledge or experience. Like just little old me does. I've experienced this phenomenon for 45 years. I've studied it for the last 20. I know probably as much about UFOs than anybody on the planet. And I'm telling you, you haven't looked at the evidence at all. And when you have looked at the evidence, you have not seen what it shows and then come to a correct conclusion. Science is the correct observation, interpretation, and explanation of factual data. Nothing they said fit those parameters. And this is because that there's no threshold, there's no baseline, there's no analytics done on the voluminous amount of data already collected and widely available to them to establish just the most basic baseline where you would say human, non-human. They have no idea in science how to make a separation. However, they're doing it without realizing what they're doing. And so what I suggest is, I'm going to boil it down real simple, and I call it the duck theory baseline. Looks, walks, talks. If it looks non-human, if we see a craft or a being that does not conform to conventional human standards as we understand them at the highest levels, well then, it's not human. If it behaves in a non-human way, if a craft does a 2,000 mile 90-degree angle turn at 1,000 G's, well, that's not human. If it can't be replicated by humans. In other words, all these people who are saying secret government project, we can't get one of our best jets to even touch one of these craft at all. It just breaks a radar lock, takes off at Mach 20, and leaves your boy behind. Now, if we had these secret government crafts, why wouldn't we trot them out to meet another UFO? If a UFO enters our atmosphere, why wouldn't we send our badass shit out to meet it? That we send out the best we have. The best we have are jets, and jets ain't gonna cut it. So, spare me your government bullshit, okay? But, this is the duck baseline theory. If it looks non-human, behaves non-human, and can't be replicated by humans, it is non-human. Now, if something is not human, it is, by definition, extraterrestrial. Nobody else building planes on this planet. Anybody else building flying craft, just humans. So if it is non-human, then by definition it is extraterrestrial. If it is non-human, that means that non-human entities created it. Yes? We see a craft that not made from human materials, doesn't perform in a human way, and can't be made by humans, well then that is a non-human object that has been made by non-human entities. This is very simple stuff, guys. And they're trying to give you all these fallacies and these little cul-de-sacs of thought that actually spin you in a circle when they are admitting the truth in front of you. Michio Kaku says, We've studied these frame by frame. These things are performing in ways that we can't match, we can't understand, we can't build things that do this. Our pilots can't endure that type of performance. So nothing about this says human. Okay, well, if nothing about this says human to you, then it is obviously non-human, and they are terrified to make this leap because they might not be on TV again. Oh, they may not get to do a Shasta commercial. Oh, are they going to pass me up for the History Channel? Oh, I'm going to be eviscerated on YouTube. Bunch of cowards. We have to take a stand in science, and science doesn't care about your goddamn feelings. As I've been reminded a million times, science doesn't care about your feelings. And we have the facts. These physicists have the facts, and yet they are refusing to acknowledge them, to study them, or admit them when they have them. Look at Flight MH370, for example, the video I posted the other day. We have two separate video feeds from two perpendicular angles of the exact same incident happening to an airplane that we can't find. Do you have to be hit in the head with a fucking brick before you understand that there are things at a much higher level happening on this planet? And until you are at least intelligent enough to acknowledge it, you are never going to be intelligent enough to handle it. And this needs handled. This needs addressed. And what Michio Kaku said pissed me off. Well, we need more hearings. To what? To get Congress to go chase its tail? Do you really think that the people who are in charge of these products, or these projects, and these craft and these beings, do you really think they answered a fucking Congress? Do you really think that? My God, how naive are human beings willing to be? These trillions of dollars that disappear from the budget, that are never found again, where do you think that's going? You know, these scientists are talking you in circles, the government's siphoning your money, and these guys are acting with complete impunity on this planet. Well, what else can we do? I tell you what else we do. We just start acknowledging the evidence. We start pushing the scientists instead of letting them lead us. We need to push them and say, no, you need to prove to me how this is human, or you must admit that it is extraterrestrial. It is of non-human origin, non-human manufacture, and non-human operation. Now, these are the baselines, and they're very simple, and I explained them to you. I wrote them down on a piece of paper. This isn't high math. Now, you can take that knowledge and you can take that common sense, and you better stick it in your gray matter. Because these scientists, until we push them over and walk past them on the journey of truth, they're going to try to confuse you in every way possible with, I guess USA now stands for unclear semantic arguments, I guess is what it stands for. Because that's what these guys are doing, instead of telling you the real deal. That yes, the way these things look, behave, and interact do not correspond with anything human. Until otherwise, it should be considered scientifically non-human manufacture, non-human origin, and non-human operation. And therefore, proceed with caution. Guys, I'm going to stop right there for the day, but I want to thank you guys for joining me. Don't forget to look for my link if you want to drop a coin in my cup and help keep the content coming. This has been best-selling author RL Poole. Keep kicking ass out there. I'll see you.